Welcome. This is the third Simplified Anatomy and Physiology for athletes. All right, so far we've got the parts for the basic design. We've got the outer structure parts and we've got the inner structure parts. So essentially the basic design unit is complete. And now we'll do, in addition to anatomical region and generalized region anatomical referencing, we'll do some planar referencing and kind of like a static analysis before we do dynamic stuff. Let's see, this is the third presentation, so the 8th presentation, there'll be more so dynamic stuff. All right, so here are those regions, and then the generalized regions. And now it's an introduction to like planes. All right. So we've got the side plane, we've got the transverse plane, and then we've got the frontal plane. So looking at all these together, that's kind of what it looks like. All right, so I do add a little bit more organization to this. And it's not so much like range of motion, but it's like simplified planes for only certain areas, like for only generalized regions that show the most movement that you're going to get fluidly, so consistently for the given general anatomical region. So I'll show you what I mean here. All right. So for that side plane, really all of those 3 generalized regions allow for continuous movement along that plane. So the words I used to describe that movement would be either folding or unfolding. One thing to make mention is that I really organize just like a generic anatomical unit with the palms facing backwards, because that really, I don't know, it's just a little bit more organized for consistent folding and unfolding. And then for these 2 generalized regions, there is continual or consistent motion available along the horizontal plane. So one thing to make mention of is you don't want to lift something and twist at the same time, but that type of movement is available for that given region. Now, lastly, for the head and neck general region, there is side bending that is available. And the plane that movement is available on, that would be just called the frontal plane. All right, so easy way to remember this is that for your generalized region 2, so the torso and the arms, there is folding and unfolding along with twisting. So if you think about the movement of elbows, they fold and unfold alongside twisting. They do not side bend. So let's say, so if you guys are athletes, let's say you do like a gait analysis of something. and maybe even you're a coach or design these types of things for athletes or something like that. But for most practical purposes, these are the planes for the given generalized regions that show movement for a generic athletic build. And so I just have the name of the movement along with the generalized anatomical regions that they cover. All right, so that's all the referencing that we do for a generic anatomical build. So now this presentation is a little bit more modular in that we're not starting with the parts list and going through the template and then working on the scaffold. We're just kind of like hanging with some of those tools. And this is here to really just familiarize you guys with these tools a little bit more, as opposed to just like following through the motions and being like, okay, that makes plenty of sense. Sure. All right, so with the scaffold, I've already made mention of this, but there's only so many spots for parts. Okay, very cool. A rule that's associated with the template is that the template is always functionality. Sometimes we'll associate a part with it, but it's always functionality. All right, so now we're going to hang with the parts and functions list. We've done this before a little bit. It was at the end of the first presentation, I think. And let's see here. So for the parts, they're always first and foremost just parts. Some of them can be furthermore described as a tool or a mechanism, and then some of them can be furthermore described as organs. And really how I define an organ is that it either makes or moves material. It usually makes and moves material, or helps with the modulation of such processes. All right, and for this presentation, we're really going to focus on just the systematic functionality, and we're going to hang with the template a little bit. All right, so we're going to kind of apply the same generalized groupings. This is definitely as it regards functionality because we work with the template, and it's going to kind of loosen up the systematic functionality. We've got the contextual understanding for each column, but we're going to kind of hang with it, and it should be kind of fun to work with. So we've got that, and then you kind of go, all right, so we're really just going to hang with this systematic grouping here for the functionality. All right, so in this presentation, we touch on the systematic functionality. Parts aren't in here, but we touch on the organ parts helping with the systematic functionality. And for a systematic unit, it's really the systematic functionalities that eventually we'll touch on functioning for the systematic functionalities themselves for the systematic unit, and then also including the systematic function or the systematic parts helping with the mechanistic functionality, and then lastly the systematic parts helping with just capping off a unit functionality. All right, so for starters, we'll just hang with the systematic functionality. And for both the outer structure functionality with this third column and kind of the inner structure functionality, they were a little different, but together it's really bringing in materials, transferring nutrients and liquid material to system 4, which is column 4, and then bringing back the trash, which could be just old blood, and then keep that blood volume balance correct, to the kidneys. And then it could be, so, and then system 5 excretes materials overall out of the overall generic anatomical unit. And then let's see here. The next column is really cultivating materials. And the next column is really just modulating for those processes. So this is where we're going to hang for like the quintessential systematic functionality within a systematic unit. And so I'm going to add some words to some of these to further describe their functionality. All right, so now we're going to go and we're going to describe these a little bit more. I give a nice kind of simple description for the functionality with that functions list. And now I'm just going to apply some common words and phrases that are kind of from these schools of thought. And so we've got, and of course this is just functionality. So we've got the neurological system and the respiratory, then circulatory system, and then the digestive, then renal system. And then we've got for cultivation materials, really just modulation of material cultivation. And then we've got liquid, then gas, and then solid, then liquid. Here are the different types of sensory parts. And we're going to put in the sensation type. And we're going to organize which direction it's going for these given functionality little areas here. So we have speaking, then hearing, then we have taste, and then we have flavor. And the way I describe flavor is it's really the combination of smell and taste together. So here those are with the organization that I generally use. These I can try to describe them as it regards being a little bit more associated with the outer structure design and the inner structure design. Respiratory system, it's really venting for the circulatory system, and that's venting to the outer structure. And then digestive system, really taking in material to the overall unit, and then excreting solid waste from the overall unit. The neurological system, really helping to modulate for such processes. And the circulatory system, very much circulating blood and with nutrients, and then helping to bring the trash back to system 5. But that's all happening within an inner structure. And then we've got the renal system, really helping to balance that blood volume for a given generic unit. And then we've got modulation of material cultivation. I think that should actually be in the inner structure, sorry. And then we've got liquid made. And then we've got speaking, which is a sensory design that's going out of the body. So it's this type of sensation that's going through the outer structure of a body to share with the world around it. And then sensation types, hearing, taste, and flavor are taken in within inside the inner structure. And so this first go at this, it's really just as it regards the systematic functionality. I'm sorry, I have a blank slide here, but here, this is nice and really just focusing on moving materials in and out of an overall unit and some of the materials that are used to do that. So these are the parts associated nearby their kind of quintessential column. And let's see here. So these parts either make and move or modulate for those processes of biomaterials. And this is kind of just starting to work with the template. But yeah, so these are the types of materials: liquid, gas. We got solids and liquids for urine. And as I made mention before, the tongue is considered an organ for the digestive system. And then to kind of help complete this a little bit more, I added gastric juices because that's another liquid cultivated by System 5, the digestive system, to help with bringing in nutrients and materials into an overall unit and excreting nutrients, more so like composted nutrients that a body doesn't want anymore, along with materials out of an overall given unit. So here are the athletic diagrams. And so when we do these are really supposed to be on the simple side. So here's a diagram, and we're just going to have 3 units. So we've got a cyclist, a bike, and grass. And so unit equals gear. It can be one thing or it can be multiple things, but it's really just going to be the important ones as it regards form and mobility for an athlete. And then as far as the surface that the athlete is cycling on, just like a simple description, is it this one grassy and flat? Sounds good. So we'll hang with these parts here and these functions, and this is kind of where we, this is just outer structure. That's kind of where we hung at the end of the first presentation. And then this is like an optional worksheet, touching on some stuff that we did in this presentation. You can fill in the blank here. We can label the regions, general regions, and then the planes. And then you can do Engineers call this a free body diagram, but basically just this one's for a person standing, and you use a person, and then you could do running shoes there, something like that, and then describe the surface that they're running on, and just kind of start with that kind of thing. And then lastly, this one's pretty cool. So for inner structure parts, the non-reproductive orifices provide the function of connecting the overall inner structure to the overall outer structure. Really mostly as it regards material flow. And this one more so is capping off the overall inner structure with the overall outer structure. And this is mostly as it regards sensory design. And feel free to present that to someone. The next presentation, we're going to touch on a few more athletic diagrams. We're going to go through and we're just going to use simple verbiage, straight line motion. We're going to do diagrams. We're going to do simple words for moving, just kind of congeal some of this stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much.